Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Data Show. My name is Chris Greco. I'm going to be your host for the next 30 minutes, talking about different types of data, what it means, how to apply it, how to find it, all these different things. Today, what I would like to focus on is something that people just don't understand a lot about, and that is the Congressional Budget Office. Now, the Congressional Budget Office is otherwise known as the CBO, is there to make, I guess, prognostications about how budget is to be used, how much it's supposed to be used, and basically try to predict what's going to happen within the next 10, 20, 30 years with current expenditures in federal government. And this, I have to tell you that I have really, really mixed feelings about the CBO. And here's why. And it's something that we've covered in the past. It's something that I will continue to cover. And it's something that you absolutely have to take into consideration. And that is changes. I think that's so important to understand about changes. And when we talk about changes, I talk about Bayesian probability. I've said it again and again and again. And basically what happens is that things change. And as they change, so does the ability to predict exactly what's going to happen in the future. My book, which is currently out, it's talked about, a data analyst walks into a bar graph. It's at lulu.com, but it also is on Amazon. You can see it on Amazon. You can get it on Amazon. A data analyst walks into a bar graph. This is something that when we talk about different aspects, we talk about changes. And a lot of times they don't take into consideration what the changes are. The CBO does the best they can with what they have at that moment. It's a snapshot in time, a snapshot in time. And I explain in my book how that snapshot in time really is not a great way to be able to predict the future, because it literally is just that little bit of time that is accounted for. So without further ado, let's talk about the CBO. Let's talk about something that's really that's on everybody's mind at this point in time, and that is student repayment, right? Student loan repayment. What I did was I thought, well, this is Supreme Court just went on went on and ruled on this, and as a result, President Biden has decided to go in another direction. But let's talk about the federal education programs, the ones that currently exist, the ones that are there, right? And I think this is very, very important to talk about that. So let's talk about that. So we're going to talk about federal. And where did I get this? It's not like it was hard to get. The CBO has all this data. And this is proposals affecting federal education programs. CBO estimate of the president's fiscal year 2021 budget. So this is just the 2021 budget, right? We're in 2023. So look at this budget, and I want you to take a look at this. Create a single income-driven student loan repayment plan. Now look at this. Decreases in direct spending. This is the president's plan, folks. This is not Congress. This is the president's plan that goes from the president through the Office of Management and Budget, goes through the congressional offices to see exactly what's going to be passed or not passed in the overall budget. Congress, specifically the House of Representatives, has almost a singular purpose, and that is the purse strings. They determine how much money is to be spent on what program. They do that. So the president's budget goes OMB, it goes to Congress. Congress takes a look at it. House of Representatives, they do little check marks or whatever they're going to do on the budget. They kind of mess with it. They send it to the Senate. The Senate does whatever they're going to do. They send it back to the House. The House then either approves, doesn't approve it. If they don't approve it, then it goes back to the Senate for a rewrite. These things go back and forth. And then it goes to the president's desk for his signature on the budget. So it starts at the president, ends at the president. And a lot of people don't understand that. They think that the House of Representatives just kind of do their own thing. No, but they do have programs that they want to be considered. So they try to get the president to write it into his or her program budget, but basically that's the way that is. I mean, it goes back and forth. It's a very long process. And to tell the truth, I don't think they've hit the October mark yet. I don't think they've ever actually hit the October mark since about the 1980s, if they hit it then. So that's so this is eliminate standard repayment cap. Look at this. I mean, look at the negatives here. The negatives. All this is negative. And there's all kind of different. This is kind of cool, actually. It's kind of estimates on CBO baseline budget projections as of March 6, 2020, right? Which do not incorporate changes to the nation's economic outlook and fiscal situation arising from the recent and rapidly evolving public health emergency, right? I talked about coronavirus. So there we have Adjusted Gross Income Federal Credit Reform Act of 1990. So they're trying to explain to this, right? That's what FCRA stands for. The present value of unexpected future cash flows is calculated by discounting those cash flows using the rates of Treasury securities with similar terms of maturity. Now, what does that all mean? Well, you have expected future cash flows. Mean expected value, right? And that's actually a whole other program. We can actually talk about that in another program. But you can see this is all negatives. These are all negatives except for right here. Expand Pell Grants to short-term programs. That went up. So Pell Grants actually went up to the point where in 2021, 2030, we're talking about a total uptick of about 435. What is it? Wait for it. 435 what? Millions of dollars they're gonna expect by 2030. So this is just a federal education program. So take a look at this. I mean, this is our money. This is tax-paying money, and CBO does a lot of these types of estimates throughout the year, and this is just one of them. So that's what that is. So now let's go to another one, and we'll go to this one. So this is long-term projections for Social Security. You can take a look at this. Here's a publication. There's the reference right there. In fact, what I'm going to do is let me copy it, and I will put it on the handy dandy banners here so that you can see it and you can take a look at it. And then this way, there we go. So that's what that is. This is kind of nice. The CBO. Everyone talks about, and I'm going to rip on every other show that talks about data, because the shows that talk about data, they talk about, how do you use Python and what do you do here and get into Excel, and that's sometimes I go on that. But this is purely, how do I get data to be able to figure out if what they're telling me in the media is a bunch of horse poop, or is it really based on data? And I'm sorry, but I go to the government databases, because that's where the third-party databases, that's where they get their data, is government databases. So basically, you're getting, when you go to a .com or a .org or someplace like that to get data on federal spending or prediction of federal spending or long-term projections for Social Security, they're getting it from the CBO. They're getting it from the CBO. They're getting it from a government website. So this is what we're talking about here. And I just love this. This is in actuality if you take a look at this, and you can actually take a look at this if I can figure out. There we go. I think there we go. So it's got a lot of figures with it. Average initial replacement rates for disabled worker by birth cohort. Look at this. I mean, 90s, 80s, figure 8, 60s, 70s, 90s. Here's 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. I mean, average lifetime Social Security taxes at a percentage of lifetime earnings by birth cohort. By birth cohort. In other words, if you were born in the 1970s, this is what you're talking about right around 9%, maybe 9.5% of your total percentage of lifetime earnings, you get 9%. 9% is going into that. Yeah, well, it's 70s, 9.73%, 10% here, 10% here, 50s. Dadgum, man, I gave a lot. 9.6. So that's so this is all again the CPO. And I think it's amazing that we have the ability to do that stuff. And let me bring it down for you. So this is what we have here: average initial replacement rates for retired workers by birth cohort. So a quintile. So a quartile is by fourths, right? It's a quintile is by fifths. So that's what the difference between quintile and quartile. And we can go into that again on another show. So that's what we're talking about with that. I mean, so there's a lot of different things. Let's start at the beginning. This data represents supplements long-term. Here we go. Long-term. What do we have? Social Security outlays and revenue in 2022. Outlays 4.32%. This is 4.32% of gross domestic product. So what are we talking about when we're talking about Social Security? We're talking about $1 trillion, folks. $1 trillion a year outlay, and that's only 4%. $1 trillion, 4%. I mean, it's like, wow, of gross domestic product, 3.91 revenues. What's it going to be? Disability trust fund about 0.64 to 0.58. So it's just about the same, but not, you have a little bit more income, a little bit more revenue. Here, you don't have enough revenue to keep up the outlays. So just take a look at that, folks. That's something to behold. And then Social Security outlays and revenues with scheduled benefits. This is again, the CBO prediction, Congressional Budget Office prediction, over a period all the way to almost 2100. I'm not going to be around 2100. I'm not going to be around 2097. I may not be around 2087 or 2077. I don't know. But this is what's going to happen. Revenues are dropping like a rock and outlays are coming up. Why? Because, very important, because of age, right? So let's talk about age. So this is old age survivors insurance. This is the file. Oops, get rid of that. File represents supplement CBO to long-term projections. Security trust fund ratios. Ratios of trust fund balance to scheduled payments. So this is 1.39, 1995. We're up. Well, see, so 2032 is going to be like 0.14. 0.14. This is ratio trust fund balance to scheduled payments. So that's where you see it's getting worse and worse and worse, and then all of a sudden it starts coming down about 2012. And then all of a sudden it comes way down here, 2027. That's and interestingly enough, 2023 is 2.19. They want to try to drop those so that you have a trust fund exhausted when its balance reaches zero. Okay, so there's your zero here. So 2033 old age survivors insurance. It used to be where, and when you got your paycheck, you had OASDI. People say, what is that? Social Security, old age survivor death insurance, or survivor and disability insurance. So that's what OASDI is. Social Security. That's Social Security. So this is what we have: combined old age survivor and disability insurance. There it is. Combined old age survivors and disability insurance, OASDI. And so this is, and disability is separate. This is disability insurance here, but this is combined here. It hits zero around 2033. If nothing changes. So why am I bringing up Social Security when I talked about the Federal Reserve, or the federal payback on student loan and everything else? Because, folks, basically what's happened in the past, and this is an absolute truth, is that the Congress has raided the trust fund in order to fund some of their projects. The House of Representatives, because they have the purse strings, has raided the trust fund in order to fund their projects. This is not something conspiracy theory. This is absolute truth. And the idea behind that was that trust fund was supposed to be in a lockbox with nobody could get a hold of it. There are people that wrote IOUs and put them in there to take money from the trust fund because there was so much. And there was, because it was insurance money for us. When we got to be of age, we could pull that money. So this is what's happening right now. So Social Security, the ratio of trust fund balance to scheduled payments, it's about 4% here, and all of a sudden it drops like here, boom, to zero. So you got to be careful when it starts to hit zero. That's a problem. That's definitely a problem. So that's what's happening there in 2053 for disability insurance. You can receive disability insurance before the age you can receive Social Security. It all depends on disability, and there are people that really do need that money. So let's see what figure 4 is. Um, Average initial annual benefits for retired workers by birth cohort. So here is the average initial annual benefits. So 1950s, 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Average initial annual benefits. This is Social Security benefits. $29,070 for those in the 1990s. So if are people in the 1990s, are they 60 years old yet? No, not going to receive 60 years old till they're 20, till about 2050. Okay, so what happens in 2050? Well, you're done. You have no money. There's no money, folks. I mean, this is again CBO. It's based on their, it's based on their projections. If nothing changes now, right now, there has been, and I'm going to look this up real quick, but I think there has been a congressional bill on extending uh, the full retirement age, which which might help in some cases. You know exactly what they're doing. So so House passed Secure Act. The House passed Secure Act, and it will raise the required minimal distributions. Now that's rise to 75. That's good. Let's see what else. Case here we go. And 873 case. This is the congressional bill. Let's take a look at it real quick. It is the Security Strong Retirement Act of 2021. So that's where they're talking about that, and expanding automatic enrollment retirement, higher catch-up limits. I don't see anything, but there's something in here about the extending full retirement age, and I think they're trying to extend it to 70. I think, but I'm just not sure. With increasing Social Security full retirement age to 70. So I think they're talking about that at this point. They're talking about so full Social Security rate from 67 to 70. So they were talking about it in December of 2022, a possible budget proposal. If they do that, then that changes the entire aspect of what's going on, because now now the 1990s, they won't be able to start getting Social Security until 2060. But it will help to extend that revenue out a little bit more and be able to make up for some of the problems that occur. So figure 5. Initial annual benefits for retired workers by birth cohort and earnings quintile. So this is, in 1990s, lowest quintile, whatever that's going on. So we can do that. I just want to work through these figures real quick. Average initial replacement rate for retirement workers. This replacement rate is important because the more workers you have, the more revenue you have to Social Security. So that works that issue where you start trying to put more revenue into that area, right? In each of these are all the different annual average initial annual benefits for disabled workers. So here this is way up here. But of course, you would expect that, right? Because you need more money. So that's birth cohort stuff there. And then the final one is average lifetime Social Security taxes, percentage of lifetime earnings. We did all that. So this is where you have all kind of different things here. Outlays and revenues with scheduled and payable benefits. So revenues percentage here, it stays right around 4. Really, seriously, stays right around 4 almost the entire way. And I think part of that is the projection aspect. But that's what's happening here. Outlies with scheduled benefits, outlies with payable benefits. So scheduled versus payable benefits. I mean, there's different titles, right? Title 8 and 16. There's a couple of titles when it comes to Social Security. So that's what's happening there. And then, I mean, I just love this. Reductions in average initial benefits for retired workers under a payable benefits scenario. Payable benefits scenario by birth cohort. So there's your payable benefits, right? Interesting, right? So all of a sudden now this is different. You have scheduled versus payable benefits. So scheduled benefits and then payments that have to be paid. Scheduled versus actual. And we can go into that again on another area. And so there's 14 figures just in this one right here. Okay, so that's just one of these. So then this one talks about demographic outlook, and I think this is important to talk about. Deaths versus births, right? So deaths per 100,000 people, and this is where the deaths you can see are lowering here, based on the CBO's aspect. But here's the demographic factors that determine population growth. Birth minus deaths, net immigration. So here we have immigration here, and that's important. I'm going to just push it back up here. Here we go. So net immigration. You see how the net immigration is, so here we have population growth is coming down. Net immigration stays level here. Births minus deaths here. By 2042, the aging of population, deaths exceed births in CBO's projections. As a result, population growth after that point is driven entirely by immigration. Population growth entirely by immigration. And then population by age group, again, projected. This is very, very important, folks. The more people you have, the more you have to provide for. But the more that work of those people, then the more revenues you get. Ages 65 or older share the population. Look at this. Look what happens. Look what happens to the age. So what happens? More people are going to be on Social Security. More people need pharmacy care. More people need health care. More people need. All of a sudden, you get holy mackerel. Population age 65 or older is a share of populations 25 to 64. And look at this. It goes almost up to about 45% by 2053. Look at that. Look at the share. How it does that. Almost 50% by 2053, 46%. That's, I mean, that our whole country is getting older. Fertility rates. Here's fertility rates. Total fertility rate is going to level off here about 2033. Rate for women's age for 30 to 49, it's going up slightly. It's coming up here. Rate for women 14 to 29 coming down here. Think about this. The fertility rates, births per women rate, 14 to 29 is actually going to be below the fertility rate, the births per woman in going from 2023 to 2053, 30 to 49 is going to go up, 14 to 29 is going to come down. I just think that is so telling, of our country. And then mortality rate. Mortality rate came up here. This is 2020. It went up, and then it's gonna peak and then come back down again. So this is what we have: mortality rate, and then net immigration by legal status. Foreign-born people without legal status by thousands, and this is we're going to take a look at this. This is lawful permanent residence, foreign born without legal status. Look at this. Look where it's going to. We're going about 500,000 here. I mean, we have, and then projected after that. That's just, so all this is in CBOs. All this is in the CBOs area. So I just think that's so amazing when we talk about that. Civilian non-institutionalized population by age group. We have all these areas. So there's a lot of data here. There's a lot of data. You can do a lot of things with this data. So 23 population CBOs, projection 2022, 2023. And you have all the different areas in there, all the population growth. So we're going to be up to 370 million in around 2053. So again, all this data is there for you. I mean, it's really funny when it comes down to it, because this data is there and it's publicly available. Publicly available. You can take this, you can put it down. I just downloaded it to Excel. I can do a ton of stuff in Excel with this. You can do all kind of things. I put in exponential growth. You can do a lot of things with this that you can use in data aspects, or to answer a question, just to answer a simple question. Is the population growing? What ages is growing? Are we in fact an older population? So all those things have to happen. And that's basically what this show is about, to show you just one place where you can get this, where you can get these types of data. And it's great to do. So on that note, I'm going to leave you until the next data show. And on that show, we'll talk about different ways of the medical field applies data, actual statistical data that I've talked about with you before, standard normal curves and the rest of that, to try to determine osteopenia and osteoporosis using T-score and Z-score, which we've already covered in the show, but we will review before I show you the data. So thank you very much for watching. This is Chris Greco signing off for the data show. And always remember, please check the data. Take care.